When you picture a bee buzzing around a flower, you probably think of this beautiful, perfect partnership, right? A little dance of nature. But what if I told you that in that seemingly peaceful world, there's a secret life of crime? We're talking heists, cheaters, and thieves. So let's pull back the curtain on this floral underworld.
So let me ask you this. We're always taught that when an animal, a bee, a hummingbird, whatever, visits a flower, it's there to help pollinate. It's the classic win-win. But is that really always the case? Is every single visitor a helpful friend?
Well, the short answer is absolutely not. Because while a lot of them are partners, some of these visitors are just straight-up thieves. They've figured out how to get that sweet reward, the nectar, without holding up their end of the bargain at all.
And that brings us to our main event, the nectar heist. Let's go ahead and meet some of the most fascinating cheaters in the entire plant kingdom.
The official name for this little crime is nectar robbing. And honestly, it's exactly what it sounds like. Instead of going through the front door of the flower where all the pollen is, the robber just chews or pierces a hole right in the side to get directly to the goods, completely bypassing the reproductive parts. It's a total smash and grab job.
Okay, so this lays out the difference perfectly. On one side, you've got your legitimate pollinator. It follows the rules, right? Enters through the front, does its job, and gets a sugary reward for its work. It's a fair trade. But then, on the other side, you have the nectar robber. It just cheats the system, avoids all the work, and just steals the prize.
So you'd think this theft is obviously bad for the plant, right? I mean, less nectar, damaged flowers. It seems like an open and shut case. But, and this is where the story gets really, really interesting, is this theft always a bad thing?
At first glance, yeah, the damage seems totally clear. A plant that gets robbed is having its resources stolen without getting that crucial pollination it needs to reproduce.
And yep, here are the consequences you'd expect. First, you get damaged flowers, which is bad enough, but then there's less nectar left over to attract the actual pollinators. So if they stop showing up, the plant can't make as many seeds or fruits. It looks like a clear-cut loss for the plant, no question.
But that's not where this story ends. Not even close. As researchers have started looking closer, they've realized that the full story is much, much more complex than that.
In fact, a huge review on this very topic found that the effects of nectar robbing can range all the way from negative, like we'd expect, to neutral, and even all the way to positive for the plant. Positive! I mean, how is that even possible?
This chart gives us a fantastic visual of what's going on. And just remember, these numbers are for illustration. So while about half of the time the outcome is negative, just look at the other half. A massive chunk of the time, it's neutral, meaning no real impact on the plant's ability to reproduce. And a small but significant slice is actually beneficial. So what on earth is happening here?
So how could the outcome possibly be neutral or even good? Well, for one, sometimes there's just plenty of nectar to go around, so the theft doesn't really matter. In other cases, some of these robbers are pretty aggressive, and they might chase away smaller, less effective pollinators, which actually clears the way for a bigger, more efficient one to come in and do a better job. And get this, sometimes the robber is just clumsy and accidentally picks up some pollen anyway, becoming an accidental pollinator itself. The whole system is just way messier and way more fascinating than we ever thought.
All right, so this really complex relationship has sparked this constant back and forth between plants and robbers, a classic evolutionary arms race. Plants are not just sitting back and letting this happen, not by a long shot.
No, plants are absolutely not passive victims in this story. Over millions and millions of years, they've evolved some incredibly clever and sophisticated defenses to protect their precious nectar from these little thieves.
It's this cycle that just drives evolution forward. First, the robbers figure out a way to cheat. That puts pressure on the plant to evolve some kind of defense. Then, that new defense puts the pressure right back on the robber to find a new way to cheat. This dance can go on for generations, shaping both the plant and the animal along the way. And check out some of these defenses. On the physical side, some plants have evolved tougher flowers that are just plain harder to pierce. You could think of it like floral armor. Then, on the chemical side, things get even more clever. Some plants make nectar that contains compounds that are toxic or just taste awful to the common robbers, but it doesn't bother their favorite pollinators at all. It's kind of like a secret password, but for taste.
So after all this, why should we care about these tiny flower thieves? Well, it's because they give us a completely new perspective on how nature really works.
Ultimately, nectar robbing just tears up that simple storybook idea of perfect harmony in nature. It shows us that conflict and cheating aren't just there, they're actually powerful forces.
These complex, messy interactions are what push species to adapt, to change, and to become what they are today.
And that kind of leaves us with a final thought to chew on. Nectar robbers, they seem like the villains of the story at first, but they play this vital, complex role. It really makes you wonder, what other so-called cheaters in the natural world are actually driving evolution in ways we're only just beginning to understand?